this off. Here we go, we're recording now.
Excellent. Hello everyone, my name is Bianca and I head up the team here at Community Courtyard, and tonight we've got a fantastic conversation about some of the community issues around homelessness, around housing, and how we can support each other. And it's great to be hosting this event with Alex from the Northampton Community Foundation, with Dave, who's from ACORN, and we're lucky to be joined by Robin, who's from the Hope Centre. So evening to you all, how are you all doing?
Good to be
here.
Very
good, thank you. Yep.
Yeah, good,
cheers. Great to be here.
Excellent stuff. So one of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation was around the issues around poverty and the issues around what people can do when they're struggling in rent arrears and with housing issues. So we were looking at how we could set up a ACORN branch, but we realised that ACORN might be something that you know nothing about. So we needed an expert. So here's Dave, our expert, who's an ACORN organiser, who's going to give us the kind of top 10 hits and all the lowdown on ACORN and what we need to do to get a branch going. And then we're going to have a conversation about it. Dave, it's up to you.
Nice one. Cheers. I'll carry the load. So cheers, Bianca. My name's Dave. I'm a organizer for ACORN Union. I'm one of the national organising staff. So I'm supporting groups like across the country. So from Lambeth up to York, Stoke across to Norwich. I'm supporting groups, facilitating them, helping them take direct action. I'm happy to speak to you today. I prepared a snazzy presentation and just to get like who we are, what we do, why we do it, and what you can do to be a part of it. Can everyone see that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Sound. So, ACORN, who are we? So we started in Bristol in 2014. Started with a few people just knocking on their estate. There was a few bad housing issues, so they just started speaking to the neighbours, working out strategy, how can they improve them. It's a really simple idea, but it is quite ambitious. It's building a community organisation along the lines of a trade union. So you have your trade union for your workplace, protecting you on the shop floor. But I like to think of it, if you want to get to the shop floor, you've got to cross the street, and we need to own the streets. They need to be run for us, by us, from bad landlords to councils not providing services to industries and services not being run in our favour. So that's what we're doing. We're organising our community on a variety of issues. So Bianca's correctly foregrounded the housing stuff, because that's a lot of what we do. But we are a multi-issue organisation. So we've organised several campaigns around housing, economic justice, democratic engagement, increasing accountability for politicians, environmental justice. We take on things that matter to our constituency, our members, our community, which is working class people. So we're looking to organise low to middle income households. So renters, workers, carers, parents, carers, delivery drivers, people working in warehouses, like working class people fighting for a better life. That's what we're doing, and we're placing community organisation at the heart of it. So we started with a few mates in Bristol, knocking on people in their few streets, trying to get some housing improved. Now we're a mass membership organisation where we've got over 5,000 members. We're in 25 different cities. We're going into London. We're organising across the UK, and we're taking on bigger and bigger targets. So what do we do, and what do we think? We would view problems of inequality to be about power. So I know what my issues are that are facing me. My rent's too much. My floors in the kitchen's mouldy. My landlord won't repair it. I can't afford to get the bus. It's too expensive. I know what issues are facing me. People next door know what issues are facing them. The issue is that I haven't got the power to change it. I haven't got the power on my own to make the landlord do the repairs that I want. I haven't got the power on my own to make the bus services run for me, or to have publicly run transport. The only way that we'll see meaningful action is if we counter the power of organised money and organised politics with the power of organised people. And not only people getting organised, but organised people taking action. So we've grown from a small group in the neighbourhood to a national organisation, and we're influencing politics at the highest level. We're taking on banks, we're taking on TSB, Santander, NatWest, taking on rogue landlords, taking on multinational companies. We produce the wealth in this country and we're entitled to our fair share of it, but we're not going to get it by asking nicely. So we need to get organised and take it back. So, like who, what, where, why? So who are we organising? We always start with the who first. Working class people, low and middle income communities with a shared interest. That could be that housing's bad. It could be the jobs don't pay. It could be the roads are bad. The bins never get collected. The council are corrupt. It could be anything. So working class people who've got a shared interest. We always start with people first. After knocking on doors, speaking to them, then we'll find our issue. So we're going to find issues that are going to motivate and mobilise our community. We always want to start with self-interest because we're not going to mobilise people on an issue that they don't care about. That's why we start with things like bad housing, like the buses don't run on time. We want people willing to fight and take risks, and that's how we're going to build power. Where do we do it? Anywhere and everywhere that our community and our people are. So there's no town too small, there's no city too big. If there's working class people there, we're going to be there to organise. And why do we do it? So we want to motivate people to action and develop community leaders. These are two key things. Through taking action, people get confidence, we demonstrate our power and we win. And developing leaders, we need like organic leaders to be developed and to be strong. That's how we get a long-term organisation. So the whole history of progress of human liberty shows that all concessions have been born of struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Just by asking nicely, by asking the council nicely, by asking your landlord nicely, we're not going to get what we need. I've been asking, you might hear about my mouldy floor in the kitchen for a long while, but I've been asking my landlord to come around and fix it since November. He's not going to do it just because I act nicely. We need to get organised. We're not going to get the things we need. We're not going to get our fair share unless we organise and demand them. So what do we believe? We know like who we are, we know where we are, and we know what we're doing. But what do we actually believe? We believe that every human deserves a means to a dignified and comfortable life, at home, at work, in retirement, in early age. We think that working people can decide their own future. We deserve the right to make decisions for ourselves and decide what our society looks like. We think that solidarity and justice are fundamental to being a human, but the way that society is currently organised really just disrespects these values. We're not prioritised to value each other, to respect each other, to support each other. We're denied the opportunity to make decisions for ourselves. We don't decide how we work, where we live. We don't decide what services matter to us. You know, there's cases with libraries getting closed, youth centres getting closed, hospitals getting closed. The local people don't want them closed. Somebody else does. We have the right to make decisions for ourselves as working class communities and as working class people. Governments and businesses cannot be relied on. Even if they wear a red rosette, if they wear a blue rosette, they wear a yellow rosette, they can't be relied on. The only people that they can be relied on is each other, is people. So the union is the power for our class. So we get strength for organisation, we defend our interests, and we build power. So what have we won? The list of what we've won is as longer than my arm. We have something called member defence. This is when members organise and take action to defend the material interests of a fellow member. So it could be they're getting evicted. We will organise and physically stop someone getting evicted. It could be the landlords keeping their deposit. We'll take direct action to get the deposit back. It could be they're getting harassed by the landlord. We will take direct action to stop that, get compensation, get an apology, get justice. In the member defence, we've won literally millions in compensation, in repairs for people. But that's not all we do. We've had national campaigns. So we've had Say Yes to DSS. Some people might have heard of the DSS clause. It allows landlords and letting agencies to discriminate against people who are on benefits or claiming disability. This is enabled by the banks. We've forced this clause to be scrapped. We've managed to get it outlawed, and we even forced 3 international banks to stop having the clause altogether. We got letting fees banned, and we got the evictions ban brought in. But we don't only do housing, we're a multi-issue organisation. There's a few examples here. The St Philip's Power Station, they were going to build a power station in Bristol, less than 100 yards away from a nursery in a working class area. We organised such a power station getting built. In Bristol again, they were going to increase the council tax for people on lowest incomes. We managed to organise, take direct action with our community, and we kept nearly £30 million in people's back pockets. Park Hill campaign in Sheffield. I don't know if people have heard about the Park Hill flats. They're former social housing on a hill in Sheffield. Massive block of flats, about 140 different homes. They got sold off, they got privatised. The agency wanted to increase utilities for everyone. We organised, we took direct action, we organised the entire block. We thought it was a hard fight, and then all of a sudden, the target crumbled. We not only got a refund, we got a further reduction for everyone. And that's thousands of pounds. And even just this week, like, it's only, Thursday, and we've already got landlord licensing brought in Sheffield and in Oxford, where landlords are like further regulated. They can face criminal charges if the property is out of the standards. So that's some of the stuff that we've won, and like we're winning from the smallest cases right up to the biggest target. That's what we do, and it's something I'm really proud of to be part of this organisation. So a bit about our demands. So we've got these. We know what we're doing. We're knocking on doors. We're finding issues. We're taking direct action. But what do we actually want? Like, what vision of society do we have? So housing, fairly simple, but it might not seem simple when you ask for it. We want decent, secure, affordable homes for everyone. We think housing should be fit for human habitation. That might not seem controversial, but if you ask a landlord for it, they do not like it. And we want housing to be respectful of the environment. We want a society where nobody is homeless and housing is a human right. Around health, like, we want a universal health and social care service, fully free at the point of delivery. It's got to cover all aspects of health and well-being, cradle to grave, including care work. We also want remuneration for informal care work as well. About welfare, we want a welfare system that fully guarantees a comprehensive support system. Just because you can't work doesn't mean you shouldn't have a decent quality of life. This is something I feel very strongly about. Food, we want an end to hunger. Something that seems so simple, when you think about who's going to say no, that way you really realise what side people are on. Nobody should go hungry. I think we've seen throughout this pandemic that somehow that's a controversial statement, but that's what we believe. We want a food system controlled by those who work the land. Everybody should have access to healthy, sustainable and affordable food. And farmers and the public should have control over the process. Utilities, publicly owned and operated utilities, delivered on the basis of need, not the ability to pay. So we've got all these grand ambitions. How are we going to do it? First of all, it all starts with the strength of the organised working class. Organised working people is the only way that we're going to counter establishment money, establishment politics, organised politics. You can bet that CEOs of these big corporations are planning 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ahead. We need to be organising on a similar level if we're going to counter them and get a fair deal and take back what's ours. The only way to secure the essentials of dignified and comfortable life by strengthening our communities and building networks of the working class. Again, we're not going to get it just by asking nicely. It would be great if we could, but I think we might be a little bit of a different society if we got it by asking nicely. So how will we do it? Well, education. We'll educate ourselves and our communities. Before I get involved with ACORN, I didn't know what direct action was. I didn't know how to do a campaign. I'm just a normal person. Through being involved in ACORN, like, I've developed them skills. We're teaching people all across the country how to take action, how to organise, how to support people materially. So we want to increase our capacity for action, strengthen solidarity, and build the power we need through having practical skills. For example, how do we resist an eviction? How do we, challenge a landlord? How do we force the council to change things in our favour? Direct action. That's one of the key ways we're going to do it. A lot of people talk about like what is direct action? It's the people affected by the problem taking action to force the person responsible or with the power to change it to change things in our favour. So we're using direct action to develop our power, and we're going to take back what's ours. We're not advising people, we're not asking, and we're not covering up for the mistakes of the powerful. Because people are going hungry in this country because the people who have got money are letting people go hungry. We have created this society, and we can remake it. Again, like, we're not advising people, we're not advising like poor people what to do. We're not asking nicely, and we're not letting people get away with it. We're forcing them to give us what we deserve. So what can you do? So the process for an ACORN group getting started obviously starts with being a member. So you can join ACORN today. You can go on the website, you can have a look about what we've done, and you can join up as a member. We ask for an hour's wage a month to be part of it. It keeps us independent, but also gives you a say over the organisation. You'll have a role in organising in your city. When we get to around 15 to 20 members, then we'll look to do a launch. And that will involve like full-scale community organising training, support from the national staff. Nobody's set up without the proper support being there. It all starts with knocking on doors, with speaking to people, recruiting people from our networks, and getting a group of people who want to take an active role in organising. So you can join ACORN today. You can also take part in action. If you go to the ACORN website and click on Take Action, there's different email campaigns, contacting powerful people, letting agents, profit managers, counsellors, and putting our demands to them. You can take part in them. And if you're interested in starting a group, get in touch. You can email us at info@acorntheunion.org.uk and say you're interested in starting one in your local area. Everything that we've won has been won with less than 5,000 members. We stopped a power station being built with less than 2,000. What are we going to do when we're at 10,000, which we're due to beat this year? What about when we're at 20,000, 100,000? We're going to change this country forever. And where there's power, where there's people, there's power. And that's what we're going to do. And you can be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. That was really awesome. For those of you who don't know, and maybe the background behind me will give you a clue, I'm a big advocate of community power. I think that's where we start. And I know that Robin and Alex share that kind of passion for community organising, because it's the only way that we can reclaim control of our communities. So Dave's given a lot of information there, and there's two things that we can do. We can have a conversation about it, which I think we should. But I just want to remind people that if anything he's said you're not quite sure of, check out the website. Yeah, or send the Community Foundation or myself at Community Courtyard a message, and then we're quite happy to come and have a cup of tea with you, whether that's a socially distanced walk around Abington Park or a Zoom meeting to talk about it more. Don't feel like just because you didn't understand all of the lingo, but you can't get involved. So, starting the conversation then with my lovely humans of the world. Has anyone got any thoughts from what Dave was saying?
Dave, can I just say, we've been down this route before in Northampton. 2.5 years ago, I had Nick Allard, I don't know if he's still involved, to talk to me in a similar fashion. So I've heard it all before, but it's obviously bigger now. And you can see the commitment was there 2.5 years ago. The commitment's just as strong as it is today. The trouble is that we have no take-up at all to form a group locally, so it didn't proceed. So there's people interested like me and Bianca and now Alex, but we haven't been able to attract anybody. I'm completely committed to the idea, direct action type community organising approaches alongside the work of charities and organisations like mine and Bianca's. I run a housing poverty charity. It's really needed. So totally backing the idea and what you're trying to do and names, and you have scored some major successes on things like the evictions campaign.
Yeah, can I come back on that? Yeah, so it all just starts with knocking on doors and like putting in the hard graft. We recruit from our networks like initially, but it is a numbers game. And if we speak to enough people, if we know how to have the conversations, have them organising conversations, people take this up, and the model works anywhere. There's people organising in smaller areas like in Norfolk, Newcastle under Lyme, Southend. There's groups all over in smaller areas that are picking it up. It does just take knocking on the doors, speaking to people. But people, like, the issues are out there, you know what I mean? And what we're doing when we knock on the doors is we're providing a solution to a lot of people's problems, taking direct action and winning. So it is a numbers game, and it is hard work. But the model works anywhere and everywhere. ACORN was originally started in 1970 in Arkansas by a cowboy. It's worked in the South in America. It's worked in like Peru and in South America. It's currently working in Delhi. It's working in Canada. And it's working all across the UK. And it will work. It will work in Northampton. It'll work everywhere. I'm 100% confident of that. it does just take knocking on the doors, knowing how to have them conversations, and finding the issue that we're going to mobilise around. It's about lighting that fire in people, and that's what we're there to do.
I suppose one of the difficulties that we've got, and I guess that we're here in this conversation at the moment, we've got 3 people who are leading organisations. Yeah, and it's about, you're quite right, absolutely, we've got to go and knock on doors, absolutely. But the difficulty is finding that time. Yeah, so it's not about our lack of ability to knock on doors and have those conversations. Without a doubt, we can do that. The Hope Centre is one of the leading charities for homelessness across the UK. Community Courtyard does stuff again across the UK. We're and Community Foundation is, we're 3 leading charities in our sectors who are known for our good practice in terms of connecting communities. Our problem, and I'm hoping that people who are watching this go, Bianca, this is not a problem because we're going to join your branch. And so do not worry about knocking on doors, we'll do it with you. But I guess where we always full of stop is, which is, how thinly can we spread ourselves when the need is so dire at the moment? And that's the issue for us, Dave, I guess, in Northampton at the moment. So this is a shout out to people who are watching this, which is, you've got 3 or 4 people who understand the complexities of what you're going through. We want to help you in a different way to what we normally would. Yeah, so normally you'd come and use our services. But this is about you taking control of your own life and us being comrades, us being allies, us being standing shoulder to shoulder. And that's something that we can't make you do. Yeah, and in our maybe everyday lives, when you knock on our door at Community Courtyard or the Hope Centre or Community Foundation, is a very different response, because we can help you in a different way. We can make sure you got some food, and we can have a cup of tea, but we can't help you with your rent problems and your housing issues unless you start taking control with us.
Yeah.
And that's our challenge.
Yeah, working together, isn't it? Because obviously individuals come and seek help from us or from you when they've got immediate housing and homelessness problems, and we do. And we deal with them. But they're often in a very marginalised and very difficult position when they do that. And we need to find people who are not necessarily at crisis when they contact us, so that they are able to join support for people when they are in crisis, along the lines that Dave's argued. And we just need you. We need ordinary members of the public to join us, who are renters or whatever the issue is that concerns them, to become the kind of troops who are going to go out there and do the work and build more networks. And it's a hard graft, because we know that people are under difficulty. People are suffering from their financial issues or whatever it is. And people are ground down by the problems that they face. There are other people out there who've had those problems, maybe overcome them, got more secure, but still understand what it means. And it's those kind of people as well that we need.
Absolutely. And I guess what we want to offer is, for us, we want to offer that solidarity. Do you mean? So when we've got people in the branch, if you need us, we're going to be on the streets with you. If you need us knocking on the door, we'll do it with you. But at the moment, renting isn't, do you mean, that isn't my issue. Do you mean? It's an issue I'm passionate about, because I believe that every issue is a trade union issue. I believe that every issue is a community issue. And I'm concerned at the 850,000 families who are at risk of eviction. I'm concerned about what this government's doing and the recession that we're in and the financial stress that people are under. And I guess it's a shout out to Northamptonians and organisations. You might not think that housing is your issue, but I'm telling you, it's everybody's issue. You might not think that the issues that David spoke about tonight belong to you, but they do. And the only way that we can help is by coordinated, collaborative, supportive stuff together. Yeah, and that's the whole point of the ACORN branch. We're going to try really hard to set up a branch, but it can't just be Alex, Robin and myself, because we like each other. Don't get me wrong, we're happy to have a coffee and a glass of wine, but it's not going to help you if your plumbing's broke, if your boiler's gone down, or if you're going to get evicted.
Just to add to that as well, the other point is that people think that, for example, statutory organisations are going to fall in line to help them, i.e. the new unitary authority for this area. They're not. because the nature of the way that they are, the budgets that they have, the approach that they have, the philosophy they have, is very much about the most minimal of services. We need nothing more. And there's no money to spend and no willingness to take action at a higher level. So if you want anything doing, you've got to do it yourself in Northampton. And that's another reason why people have got to do it themselves as ordinary people working together, because there's no white horse coming over the hill to save them, as it were. Certainly not from the local authority. Charities, certainly. Community organisations, yes. Ordinary people.
I'd like to just sort of join in this conversation as well and just sort of say that Northamptonshire Community Foundation was really interested in helping to facilitate this conversation, because Bianca brought it up at one of our community conversations where we were focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of ending poverty, and so we were really interested about facilitating this conversation to see whether a union organisation like ACORN would be something that Northampton would be interested in. And I'm personally, as in myself, disconnected from the community foundation, I'm really interested in this because it affects the people that I know around me, and that's why I'm really passionate about starting this conversation with Bianca and Robin and Dave to get this rolling. And I've actually joined ACORN, joined back in November, so I'm very glad and happy to be a member. And so I think it would be fantastic if people in Northampton would like to join. A sort of a Northampton Community Foundation is going to be, obviously it's helped start this conversation, but they're, because of work that they do, this isn't going to be backed necessarily by the Community Foundation, just because they're about starting conversations, and then hopefully that will then get picked up and then carried on by more appropriate organisations than necessarily a funder. But I'm definitely passionate about it and would like to carry on with it as an individual, and I hope that we can share this information with the voluntary and community sector social enterprises that we have within Northampton and the surrounding county, to help progress this conversation about reducing inequalities, because it's all interlinked, whether it's your community in terms of housing, ending hunger, inequalities, whether I imagine that at this time, particularly with the coronavirus, a lot of the people who are going to be hardest hit are people who are on low wages, low income, don't get, having to rent, those people who perhaps have worked in retail, who've lost their jobs or who've been put on furlough, who can't afford to pay their rent or have food to care for their children. It's this pandemic has really highlighted the inequalities we have in our society. So I'm really passionate to hear about how ACORN as a union can help tackle those inequalities that we face in our society between those who have and those who have not. So I'm really happy and glad that Dave was able to come along tonight to speak to us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dave. I think what you just said there, Alex, is really important. This isn't about the Hope Centre, Community Courtyard, the Northampton Community Foundation starting something. It's about the fact that you might recognise us from those particular organisations. And as a result, we come with a particular set of history. And our history is rooted in collaboration. Our history is rooted in knowing that when people work together, we can make a good idea great. But this is not a organisation-led thing. ACORN is a branch. Yeah, this is something we want to set up. Yeah, but us thinking it's a good idea isn't enough. It's got to be ordinary people. So if you run an organisation and you know people who might need this service or might benefit from being in a branch, please get in touch. If you're watching this and you think that some of the issues that Dave has spoken about, if there are issues that you can relate to, please get in touch. If, however, you're thinking, you know what, this isn't for us. We understand that too. But no, but we think this is so important. There's a good chance we might not give up, and you might see us having another conversation in a few weeks' time, because actually we know, just like Robin said, the council's changed, services have changed, things are going to get tough, and the only way we're going to get through it is together. I think in a nutshell, that's our conversation, and it's the beginning of it. So it's been really lovely meeting you today, Dave. Hopefully we'll see you in the real Northampton, which is something that I know you're excited about. Those of us in the Northampton are always excited to have the outsiders come in and have a cup of tea with us, or a pint. And we look forward to doing that. Thank you for your time this evening. Robin, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir. And Alex, thank you very much for facilitating this conversation.